You're about to discover the most dangerous sound in the spiritual world. Dangerous, because when you sing like this, your body starts to heal instantly. I'm not talking about meditation or some memorized mantra. I'm talking about a real, scientifically measurable frequency that activates your energy field and alters your perception of time in just 33 seconds. And the most surprising part? This sound isn't hidden in some secret temple. It's already inside you. You just need to understand how to access it. And that's what I'm going to show you here, step by step, because this secret from Thoth was hidden for centuries. But today, it will be activated by you. And when that happens, there's no turning back. Have you ever heard a sound that made your whole body tingle? A sound that doesn't just come through your ears, but seems to go through your skin, down your spine, and touch something you can't even explain? That's it. That's not just emotion, that's vibrational technology, but a technology that isn't in machines. It's in the sound itself. Way before medicine existed as we know it today, before tests, before diagnoses, healing already existed. And this healing was done with something simple and sacred, sound. But not just any sound. The ancients knew how to tell the difference between noise and frequency. They understood that there are vibrations that reorganize, sounds that reach where no medicine can. And it was Thoth, the master of the living word, who recorded this. Thoth taught that some frequencies are so pure they go beyond matter. They transcend time. They echo beyond this life. He said certain sounds activate forgotten memories, cleanse old energetic imprints, and restructure deep layers of the being. They're not heard with the ears. They're absorbed with the field. In ancient Egypt, there were priests called Jeekau. They weren't singers. They were guardians of sound. Each one of them was trained from an early age to chant specific syllables in exact tones within consecrated spaces. They knew that with the right vibration, it was possible to dissolve physical pain, purify old emotions, and even change the vibrational quality of a person's field. These sounds didn't just heal the body, they cleansed the soul. But why does it work? Because the body is not just flesh. It's made of invisible layers, energy fields, subtle structures that record everything we go through. Every trauma, every unresolved pain, every repressed emotion. It all gets recorded. And when that energy doesn't flow, it makes us sick. And that's where sound comes in. The right sound acts like a password. It unlocks, it accesses, it reprograms. When chanted with awareness, it begins to dissolve the invisible knots that block energy from flowing. What was stuck becomes movement. What was pain becomes release. These priests knew that. They called these syllables names of the hidden fire. And each one had a specific effect. One to clear the mind, another to heal the heart, another to bring the body back into alignment. They chanted in cycles, always with clear intention, in harmony with the breath and with the field of the person receiving. There was no improvising. It was a spiritual science, and you might feel it, even without understanding. Because when these frequencies touch you, something starts to move inside. A warmth that rises, a cry that comes, a peace that appears out of nowhere. That's real. That's a sign the field is responding. It's not placebo. It's an energetic response. It's the soul saying, I remember this. And when the soul remembers, everything starts to change. But the most incredible thing is, you don't need to travel to Egypt. You don't need to find a priest. Because this same technology is available in something you use every day, your voice. And it becomes even more powerful when you understand where this power really comes from. In the beginning, there was no light. There was sound. Before any form existed, before any star lit up or any atom vibrated, something was spoken. Not with words, but with pure vibration. And that vibration gave birth to everything. Thoth said the universe wasn't built by hands. It was chanted, created by the universal mind through a frequency so powerful, so precise, that it generated structure, movement, time, space, and consciousness. The first manifestation wasn't physical, it was sonic. And that frequency still exists. It hasn't been lost. It hasn't disappeared. It keeps vibrating in every particle of the cosmos. It pulses in the center of galaxies, in the movement of the tides, in the rhythm of your heart. Every cell in your body is dancing to that same invisible music. You are a living extension of that primordial symphony. Ancient traditions knew this. The Hindus called this sound Nada Brahma. Nada, the sound. Brahma, the divine. Sound is God. Sound is the universe itself vibrating consciousness. In Egyptian temples, Thoth called this vibration the word of power. It wasn't an ordinary word. It was the sound that creates realities, the sound that organizes chaos, the sound that gives life. Now, think with me. If the whole universe was created by sound, then everything that exists is, at its core, in a state of vibration. That changes everything. Because if everything vibrates, everything can be adjusted. If everything vibrates, then the reality you live in is also moldable. It can be transformed through your frequency. And here comes something revolutionary: your voice. When you use your voice with awareness, with presence, with clear intention, it stops being just expression. It becomes a tool for creation. The vibration of your speech, your singing, your simplest sound starts to directly influence your energy field, your emotions, your thoughts, and over time, even the external circumstances of your life. Your voice is an extension of the creative mind, an antenna that connects the microcosm of your body to the macrocosm of the universe. And when you chant sounds that are in harmony with this creative field, something reorganizes inside and outside of you, not like magic, like aligned vibration. This explains why certain words affect us deeply, why certain sounds uplift us while others drain us, why just hearing a specific song can change your whole state. Because sound acts before the mind understands. It goes straight into the field, and that field is the mold of your reality. From this point on, you're not just singing, you're commanding, not with arrogance, but with wisdom. Because you realize the sound that comes from you is no longer an empty echo. It's a conscious call. It's a frequency that touches the code of creation. It's a vibrational command saying, I choose to vibrate in harmony with the source. And in that moment, you're not just chanting syllables, you're remembering. Remembering that the force that organizes the stars also lives in you, and that by vibrating in tune with that origin, you reconnect with everything. And when that happens, something deep begins to reveal itself. Even in silence, you never stop singing. Your body sings. Your organs emit specific frequencies. Your bones, your muscles, your blood, everything vibrates. Everything has a rhythm. Even now, as you read in silence, there is an invisible symphony happening inside you. Every part of your body pulses with a unique vibrational signature, and that whole creates what the ancients called the melody of the soul. You don't need to open your mouth to be making sound, because sound isn't just what you hear, it's what you vibrate. And with every thought you have, every emotion you feel, your vibration shifts. A thought of anger, for example, distorts the melody. A thought of gratitude, on the other hand, tunes everything back. It's like your consciousness is the conductor and your body is the orchestra. Thoth used to say, A healthy body vibrates in symmetry with the original sound of creation. That means health isn't just the absence of disease, it's the presence of harmony. It's when all parts of you are vibrating together, in the same tone, at the same frequency. So illness isn't an enemy, it's just a signal, a warning that something has gone out of tune. And here's something modern science has only recently started to understand: vibrational coherence. When everything in you vibrates in alignment with rhythm and balance, your body enters a state of natural regeneration. But when there's noise, physical, emotional, mental, that field becomes disorganized, and life energy stops flowing the way it should. That noise isn't visible, but it's there. In the tension you carry without noticing, in unresolved memories, in piled-up emotions, and all of that shows up as small distortions in your field, at first almost unnoticeable. But over time, they can grow into bigger imbalances, and if you don't hear the body whisper, it will end up screaming. But here's the good news: everything can be tuned. Absolutely everything. If one sound was powerful enough to create the universe, then another sound can restore your inner order, and you don't need to wait for it. You can start realigning right now, not with force, not with effort, but with vibration, because when you start to emit a new frequency, even if it's soft, even if it's brief, the whole field responds. It's like plucking one string on an instrument and seeing all the others start to resonate. That's the secret so many seekers have spent a lifetime trying to understand. You are tunable. And when you begin to tune yourself from the inside, everything around you starts to shift too. But the most powerful thing of all is realizing exactly where this process begins. And the answer might surprise you. It starts with your voice. Yes, your voice. The one you use every day without realizing what it's actually carrying. Because unlike any other sound in the world, your voice is alive. It's unique. It's coded with your energetic signature. There's no other like it. No machine, no instrument, no crystal can produce the exact vibration that comes from your mouth when you speak or sing. And this isn't just poetic. It's literally physical, vibrational, spiritual. Thoth, the master of the word, made that clear. He said the voice is the breath of the soul taking form, a sound born from the invisible, passing through the body and materializing in the world. The spoken word is the meeting point between the spiritual realm and the physical plane. When you speak with intention, you're transmitting much more than sound. You're releasing vibrational information in wave form. You're programming the field. That changes everything. Because most people think voice is just communication, but in reality, voice is creation. It's manifestation. It's natural spiritual technology. And you've carried this technology since birth. You just haven't learned how to use it. Think about it. Every time you sing, every time you make a sound with presence, you're activating a frequency that shifts the invisible structure of your field. And if that sound is chanted at the right frequency, for a minimum of 33 seconds, something happens. The energy begins to move. Blocked channels begin to open. The vibrational matrix that holds your state of being starts to reorganize. This isn't theory. It's observable. When you use your voice with clear intention, it doesn't matter if you do it silently or out loud. Your field feels it. Your body feels it. Because what's being activated isn't just the sound itself, but the vibration it carries. It's the hidden code behind the sound. And here's something nobody told you. That code can heal, or it can harm. It can set you free, or it can trap you, because your voice is neutral. What changes is the intention behind it. When you speak with anger, with judgment, with fear, you spread noise, you break your own field. But when you speak with truth, with love, with awareness. You align, you rebuild, you vibrate in harmony with the cosmic order. And that's what makes your voice the most powerful instrument in the world, not because of volume, not because of beauty, but because it carries what no external sound can carry, the direct reflection of your inner state. And if you learn to use this instrument with wisdom, intuition, and presence, what once seemed distant, unreachable, or impossible starts to respond. Because when you tune your voice to your inner truth, sound stops being just sound. It becomes a path, a code that reorganizes what's been thrown off, a bridge between you and who you truly are. And that's exactly what the ancients knew. They understood that not just any sound creates transformation. There were specific sounds, precise ones, discovered through perception, not theory. The initiates of the Hermetic schools called these vibrational keys, not figuratively, literally. They were frequencies that unlocked doors within the being, and each door held a part of your consciousness. It wasn't symbolic or improvised. It was applied spiritual science. They taught that the human body was a temple with 7 main chambers, 7 steps, 7 centers of consciousness, and that each of these centers vibrated at a different frequency. When the right sound was chanted, that center would activate, and with it, a new level of perception would open. Thoth called these the sound steps of ascension, a staircase made of frequency. Each sacred syllable, lam, vam, ram, yam, ham, om, ayum, was a step on that climb. But it wasn't enough to just chant mindlessly. The sound had to be sung with pure intention, with conscious breathing, with full presence. That state is what turned a regular sound into a vibrational key. These syllables were called sound seeds, because when planted in the right field, they would bloom into new realities. Lam, for example, isn't just a sound. It's the vibration that grounds your body to earth. It's the root of stability. Ram awakens willpower and inner fire. Yam expands the heart and dissolves old pain. Each one acts as a frequency of release and expansion. And when these syllables are chanted in sequence, with attention and surrender, something extraordinary happens. The body starts to respond. First with subtle sensations, warmth, tingling, lightness. Then with emotional release, until, at a certain point, the sound stops coming from the mouth and starts coming from the center, as if the soul takes over the voice and says, "Now it's me who's singing." This sonic climb isn't forced. It happens in a spiral, like nature itself, and the higher you go, the more sensitive you become. Because the sounds begin to open what was shut, to illuminate what was forgotten, to awaken what was asleep. But it takes courage to climb, because the higher you rise within, the harder it is to pretend you didn't see. The truth shows up, illusions fall, old patterns dissolve, and you begin to see life with new eyes. And once you start seeing with new eyes, there's no going back. Because when that sound echoes, something awakens, not like a thought, not like a normal emotion. It's a silent activation, internal, almost imperceptible, but impossible to deny. A kind of light turns on inside, as if a forgotten part of your body, or maybe your soul, rises after a long sleep. And with that awakening, a rhythm begins to pulse. A new beat, a different flow, and that flow has a precise vibrational signature, 528 Hertz. That frequency isn't some modern invention. On the contrary, it was already known in the most secretive circles of antiquity, guarded as a sacred secret among initiates, revered as one of the holiest sounds of creation. But for centuries, it was called mysticism. It was ignored, ridiculed. Until science, as always a little late, began to investigate and confirmed what the ancients already knew with pinpoint accuracy. Today, with vibrational measurement technologies, we already know that the frequency of 528 Hz isn't just pleasant to the ear, it's biologically active. It speaks directly to your DNA. That's right, your genetic code. Studies have shown that when the human body is exposed consistently and consciously to this vibration, damaged DNA strands begin to reorganize on their own, as if an internal mechanism gets switched back on. What was corrupted begins to correct itself, as if something ancient suddenly remembers the right shape. But it's not just on a genetic level. The effect spreads. The nervous system responds. The heart naturally slows down. Breathing deepens without effort. The mind quiets without needing to fight thoughts. It's like your whole organism hears a message that's not spoken in words but felt as an undeniable truth. You're safe. You can relax. You can heal. And the most impressive thing, this message doesn't come from logic. It's not something you understand with reason. It's something that pierces through layers and touches the foundation of your biology. Because 528 Hz isn't just a pretty number, it's a field of coherence, a matrix of harmony that exists at the exact point where body, mind, emotion, and spirit intersect. Thoth spoke of this clearly. He said there's a frequency that holds the universe together, and that this frequency vibrates at the exact point where love meets intelligence, where there's no emotional chaos, but also no coldness. It's the point of balance, the exact center of living consciousness. The ancients called this point the tone of the cosmic heart. Today, under different names, modern science knows it as 528 Hz. But here's the secret few still understand. This frequency doesn't have to come from outside. You don't need expensive devices. You don't need recorded sounds. This vibration can be generated by you, by your own body, by your own voice. When you sing with clear intention and align your tone with this vibrational range, your energy field begins to reorganize to vibrate along with it. And in that moment, something extraordinary happens. Not because you're forcing, not because you're trying, but because you're finally allowing your body to remember. Yes, remember. Because this isn't new, it's a return, a silent remembering of your original state. This remembering isn't rational, it doesn't show up as an idea. It arises as a deep feeling of reunion, as if every cell is hearing a song it knew for millennia but had forgotten. And that song triggers in them the impulse to return home, to return to the perfect form before distortions, before the wounds, before the fragmentation. It's like an internal code being restored, a magnetic field being recalibrated, an energetic web coming back into alignment. And it all starts with something absurdly simple. A pure sound, held for 33 seconds, coming from your own voice. It's not technique, it's not dogma, it's presence, it's surrender. It's the body and soul remembering they were born to vibrate in perfection. Thoth taught that the power of the word doesn't lie just in what is said, not in volume, not in tone. It lies in what happens right after, in the invisible space between one vibration and the next, in the space that can't be measured with words, but that changes everything. He said that it's there, between one sound and another, where true healing takes place. Because it's the vibration that opens the field, that moves the structures, that shifts what was frozen in time. But if there's no space for that new order to settle in, the energetic pattern falls apart. It slips away. It disperses. It's like throwing a seed into fertile soil and not allowing the earth to embrace it. There will be no rooting. There will be no blooming. And even though this teaching is ancient, it's simple. So simple that it becomes invisible to the rushed eyes of the modern mind. It's the same principle that governs music. Without pauses, a melody loses its beauty. It becomes noise. becomes overload. But in the subtle field, this is even deeper. Silence becomes essential. The body needs it to reorganize. The soul needs it to show up. And it's in that sacred vacuum, right after the last note is sounded, that the energetic information finds space to enter the deepest layers of your being. That silence, however, isn't passivity. It isn't absence. It's not a nothing. It's an everything at rest. It's pure presence. It's a state of silent awareness, where you don't interfere but also don't abandon, where you don't push but remain anchored in the moment. It's not just stopping the singing. It's stopping and listening to what has no sound. It's feeling the reverberation of what was chanted, spreading through your energy field like soft waves touching the inside of your cells, your organs, your memories. And it's in that moment that the true process of integration begins. The nervous system, which may still have been on alert, starts to slow down. The subtle field, which was activated by the sound, now begins to absorb this energy deeply. It's as if the invisible layers of your being start to reorganize their inner geometries, as if something is being redrawn from within. The initiates knew this with precision. And that's why, after chanting a sacred sound, they did nothing for exactly 11 seconds, not 10, not 12, 11. That was the amount of time the ancients said was needed for the etheric field to assimilate the freshly released vibration. In that pause, the sound travels through the energy centers, touches subtle points, and lights up internal codes that were asleep. It's in that silence that the previously subtle vibration begins to become dense, begins to turn into matter, begins to take form. During those 11 seconds, you're not supposed to seek, or expect, or wish for an outcome. Just breathe, just be. It's in that non-doing that the miracle begins, because in that empty space, you don't need to understand, you just need to allow, and allowing is an act of trust. A recognition that there is a higher intelligence within you that knows what to do with what was vibrated, that knows where to apply it, that knows where to heal, that knows where to align. This is where many fail. Because the modern world taught us that silence is waste, that stopping is a loss of time, that if you're not doing something, you're falling behind. But in the vibrational universe, that logic dissolves. Because it's precisely in the moment you stop that the sound keeps working for you. It's in the space between actions that the field restructures itself. It's when you step out of control that the spirit steps in. This silence, then, isn't just a break between two tasks. It's a ritual. It's the altar where the vibration rests and transforms into healing. It's a moment of absolute presence where the ego quiets, the mind steps aside, and the body enters a deep state of listening. It's at this exact point that energy begins to flow without resistance. That blocks dissolve. That tension fades. And it's in that silence, seemingly empty, that something starts to happen. You feel it. But not with your usual senses. It's as if the space around you is alive, as if the air has weight, as if time stops for a brief instant to give way to eternity. Because this isn't just any silence. It's the silence between two worlds, the transition point between what was activated and what is about to manifest. And it's exactly in that silent interval, that almost imperceptible space between the last vibrated note and the next breath, that the real alchemy begins. The field has already been activated. The subtle energy is already in motion. But what happens now escapes all rational logic. Because even when the sound ends to the ears, it doesn't disappear. It just changes planes. It keeps moving at a deeper, more internal, more invisible level, but not less real. And that's where the true magic sets in. Sound, when emitted with presence, doesn't end in the air. It leaves traces, it leaves marks, it shapes the invisible. Like a silent sculptor, it begins to reorganize the hidden structure of reality, and this isn't just spiritual metaphor, it's science. Cymatics, the study of form created by sound, shows with precision that sound frequencies can reorganize material particles into perfect patterns. Experiments show that when water, sand, or fine powder is exposed to specific vibrations, these substances take on harmonic geometric shapes: spirals, hexagons, mandalas, flower of life. The organization isn't random, it follows universal principles. And if that happens with raw matter, imagine what happens with the vibrational web of your energy field. Your voice, when it comes from the center of your being, isn't just sound. It's architecture, it's design, it's vibrational structure. It acts like a subtle pen drawing on the invisible canvas around you. And each drawn line is a response to your intention. When you chant a syllable with purity, with truth, with surrender, you emit a wave that begins to form geometric figures around you. Shapes that aren't seen, but that shape the environment. You literally start building a sacred space around you, a temple made of frequency, an invisible altar raised not with bricks, but with sound and presence. Thoth used to say the universe was built by divine proportions, that the entire cosmos vibrates in sacred symmetry, and that anything that falls out of balance, whether a sick body, an anxious spirit, or a fragmented soul, is the result of a distortion in that original geometry. And he taught that sound is one of the only tools we have to restore that order, because sound enters where nothing else does. It passes through flesh, mind, emotion, and reaches the core. And there, at the heart of the disorder, it starts to realign. It brings back the pure form, the form that had been lost, forgotten, corrupted. When you sing with intention, you're not just expressing yourself, you're restoring, you're redrawing, you're rebuilding the original mandala of your being. With each vocalization, a new structure forms. A subtle geometry that reorganizes not just your personal field, but also the surrounding field. And these shapes don't appear randomly. They follow the exact vibration of your inner state. If you chant with clarity, the shape will be clear. If you chant with doubt, the shape will be distorted. That's why chanting with awareness isn't an artistic act. It's an act of spiritual engineering. These shapes, though invisible to the eye, are felt. They alter your physiology. They regulate your thoughts. They align your emotions. They create a field of coherence where before there was noise, and that field becomes a mirror of your awakened soul. It starts reflecting not your fears or your traumas, but the silent memory of your essence. The geometry of pure sound reignites the original code of your existence, and within that code is the map of your healing, your strength, your truth. Over time, the more you sing, the more stable that field becomes. At first, the shapes come and go. They're temporary, but as your practice deepens, they begin to stay. They solidify on a subtle level, and then, even in silence, you keep vibrating that geometry. You walk into a space, and it responds. People feel different around you, even if they don't know why. Rooms become more harmonious. Tension softens. The invisible speaks before words, because your presence now emits its own language, a language made of form, frequency, and intention. You don't just speak with your mouth, you speak with your field, and the field responds. Because everything in creation is sensitive to geometry. All life recognizes the symmetry of the sacred. And when you emanate that symmetry through sound, everything around you starts to resonate. Chaos bows. The body listens. The soul reveals itself. And then, in the silence that follows, you are no longer the same. Because what you just put out now inhabits the space, and that space, transformed by your vibration, starts to return you to yourself. And when that invisible temple starts to vibrate around you, something even more subtle kicks in. Your perception of time begins to change, not as a metaphor, but as a real shift in your inner state. It's like the tick-tock that used to run your mind stops dictating the rhythm. The clock is still ticking out there, but inside, everything slows down. Thoth used to say that time is not a line, it's a frequency, and like any frequency, it can be adjusted, reprogrammed. He taught that the time you feel, inner time, is not the same as physical time. The body lives in natural cycles, but the mind lives in loops, emotional loops, mental loops, traumas that repeat, fears that return, thoughts that spin in circles. And this is exactly where conscious sound enters as an instrument of disruption. When you sing with presence for 33 seconds, you're not just chanting a sound. You're interrupting the conditioned flow of inner time. You're breaking the cycle. You're pressing pause on the loop that keeps you stuck in the same memories, the same pain, the same reactions. The vibration comes in like a new wave and pushes out what's been silently repeating inside you for years. It's like, during that brief chant, a crack opens in the timeline. And through that crack, a new pattern can enter. The mind, used to racing, slows down. Brainwaves shift rhythm. They exit the alert state and enter a state of deep access. A state where traumatic memory loses its grip, where frozen emotion begins to melt, where the past stops being a prison. And this doesn't depend on belief. It depends on practice. Because what activates this power isn't the sound itself, but the way it's chanted. It's the focus, the intention, the total presence. It's you, fully there, for 33 seconds, vibrating a sound with awareness. That's the code. That's the secret. That's the moment when time, once dense and rigid, starts to become flexible. And when that happens, healing speeds up. Because outside of linear time, outside of the prison of yesterday and the anxiety of tomorrow, the body falls into coherence. The soul realigns. And the vibrational information you emitted starts to move freely. It finds space to land. And it's in that space, in that new time, that the impossible begins to feel natural. You literally start to vibrate in another time, an inner time that isn't measured in minutes or hours, but in harmony. A time where there's no past holding you down, no future threatening you, just the expanded now, alive, clear. And it's in that now that the intelligence of your field shows up in full force. Because in the now, there is no resistance. And without resistance, healing happens. And when you stay in that expanded state of presence, where time dissolves and the field vibrates in harmony, a new layer of experience begins to unfold. It doesn't come as an idea. It doesn't show up as a thought. It comes as a break in reality. As if a thin veil, almost imperceptible, starts to tear between what is visible and what has always been hidden. Thoth called this moment the alignment of the three bodies. The physical body that feels, the subtle body that perceives, and the divine body that remembers. When these three meet in the same place, on the same frequency, in the same vibration, the veil between worlds begins to thin, and what was just dense matter begins to be pierced by the light of consciousness. This isn't symbolic, it's experiential. Suddenly, you begin to notice sensations you can't explain. The air feels different. Your skin tingles. Images appear behind closed eyes. Emotions stored for years rise up with force. A cry with no clear reason. A memory that isn't yours. A longing that has no name. All of that is real. Because when the voice vibrates with truth, it does exactly that. It cleans, it dissolves, it deprograms, it reveals. Sound at this stage is no longer just for calming or organizing. It becomes a bridge between inner dimensions. You start to access parts of yourself that have been locked up by old experiences, often not from this life, but from past cycles, from parallel existences, from deep records of the soul that were still waiting for the right moment to rise. And that moment is now. Because the frequency of your voice, aligned with presence, starts to reorganize the subtle channels through which your soul expresses itself. Channels that were blocked by trauma, beliefs, family patterns, and collective memories. But now, those channels are opening. And when they open, what was hidden begins to emerge. You might feel a sudden expansion, a heat in the center of your chest, a desire to laugh or cry without any clear reason. A name might come to mind, a word you've never heard before, an image from another time. Sometimes it's just a dense silence, full of meaning. Other times, it's like reality itself is whispering something you've always known but could never hear. These manifestations aren't fantasies. They're unblocks. They're your field, responding to the vibrational call you're putting out. It's like the soul saying, now you're ready to remember. And remembering, in this context, doesn't mean thinking about the past. It means accessing an ancient, silent knowledge encoded inside your own body of light. And it's exactly at that point that many people feel fear and want to stop. Because what emerges can be intense. It can be unfamiliar. It might feel too big. But this is the exact moment when you need to keep going. Because what you're feeling didn't come to scare you. It came to set you free. Your voice is opening inner portals that have been sealed for lifetimes. And when those portals open, you begin to see who you are behind the mask, behind the roles, behind the story they told you about yourself. You begin to touch your essence, not as a spiritual concept, but as a living presence. That's why many people, during this practice, have visions, feel presences, dream of ancient masters, connect with memories that don't belong to this linear lifetime. It's because the veils are thinner. And when the veils thin, contact with your higher self, your spiritual lineage, and the memory of the soul becomes inevitable. That's the point where sound is no longer just sound. It's revelation. And what you thought was outside starts to show up within. And when that subtle presence becomes constant, when the veils begin to thin and the invisible gets closer, something even more intimate begins to rise. A deep territory, guarded for years, by maybe lifetimes, begins to be touched by the vibration you yourself activated. It's no longer just a spiritual or energetic process. Now it's emotional, deeply emotional, because your own voice begins to reach places that ordinary words could never touch. Thoth taught that there are emotional wounds that don't heal through explanation. It doesn't matter how many times you talk about them, how many therapy sessions you do, how much mental analysis you produce. Some pain is so deeply rooted in the subtle body that it only responds to vibration. They are ancient scars, not always visible in behavior, but they shape the way you love, the way you trust, the way you express yourself. And when you sing, those wounds listen. Because your voice is more than sound. It carries an access code. When chanted with truth, it becomes a kind of vibrational needle, a living bridge between what you feel and what you've never been able to say. And in that space where the voice meets the frozen emotion, something starts to melt. It might come as warmth in your chest, a tear you didn't expect, a memory that resurfaces without warning. You don't need to understand where it came from. You just need to allow, because that's the moment when what was stuck begins to move. And emotion is that, movement. Every time an emotion crystallizes in the energy body, it stops flowing. It gets stuck, frozen. And over time, that stagnation turns into anxiety, into sadness without cause, into disproportionate reactions, into the constant feeling of being blocked. But the right sound, when expressed with presence, comes in like a solvent. It penetrates layers that no rational conversation can reach. It goes all the way to the root of the pain, not to relive it, but to dissolve it. And the body recognizes that instantly. That's why so many people, even without any technique, feel a kind of relief when they sing that they can't explain. A sudden peace, a cry with no story, a good emptiness, because what had been stuck for so long finally found a way out. That relief isn't psychological, it's vibrational. It's the energetic signature of release, and it happens because your voice carries the exact frequency your body needs. No external sound, no pre-recorded audio, no tone sung by someone else is as powerful as the sound that comes from within you, because it carries your field, your story, your soul. That's why chanting, even in a simple way, even in inner silence, with focus and intention, can do more for your emotional healing than years of repression, effort, or fighting yourself. Your voice becomes an instrument of release, a kind of living alchemy. What used to be pain now is sound, and what used to be weight begins to turn into space. In that freshly cleared space, you feel lightness, but you also feel presence. A presence unlike anything you've ever experienced. It's as if by releasing the pain, you've reconnected with a part of yourself that had been missing. As if your voice not only dissolved the wound of seeing, but also recovered a forgotten piece of your essence. And maybe, in the middle of it all, you find yourself in silence. A good silence, not empty. A silence where there's no more fight. Because in that instant, you feel that something really left, and something real came back home. And when that subtle presence becomes constant, when the veils begin to thin and the invisible draws near, something even more intimate starts to emerge. A deep territory, guarded for years, maybe lifetimes, starts to be touched by the vibration you activated yourself. It's no longer just a spiritual or energetic process. Now it's emotional, deeply emotional, because your own voice starts to reach places that ordinary words could never touch. Thoth taught that there are emotional wounds that don't heal through explanation. It doesn't matter how many times you talk about them, how many therapy sessions you go through, how much mental analysis you do. Some pain is so deeply rooted in the subtle body that it only responds to vibration. They are ancient scars, not necessarily visible in behavior, but that shape the way you love, the way you trust, the way you express yourself. And when you sing, those wounds listen. Because your voice is more than sound, it carries an access code. When sung with truth, it becomes a kind of vibrational needle, a living bridge between what you feel and what you've never been able to say. And in that space where voice meets frozen emotion, something begins to melt. It might come as a warmth in your chest, a tear out of nowhere, a memory resurfacing without warning. You don't need to understand where it came from. You just need to allow it, because that's the moment when what was stuck begins to move. And emotion is that movement. Every time an emotion crystallizes in the energy body, it stops flowing. It becomes stuck, frozen, and over time, that stagnation turns into anxiety, into sadness with no reason, into disproportionate reactions, into the constant sensation of being blocked. But the right sound, when expressed with presence, comes in like a solvent. It penetrates layers that no rational conversation can reach. It goes all the way to the root of the pain, not to relive it, but to dissolve it, and the body recognizes that instantly. That's why so many people, even without any technique, feel a kind of relief when they sing that they can't explain. A sudden peace, a cry with no story, a good emptiness, because what had been stuck for so long finally found a way out. That relief isn't psychological, it's vibrational. It's the energetic signature of release, and it happens because your voice carries the exact frequency your body needs. No external sound, no pre-recorded audio, no tone sung by someone else is as powerful as the sound that comes from within you, because it carries your field, your story, your soul. That's why chanting, even in a simple way, even in inner silence, with focus and intention, can do more for your emotional healing than years of repression, effort, or fighting yourself. Your voice becomes an instrument of release, a kind of living alchemy. What used to be pain now is sound, and what used to be weight begins to turn into space. In that freshly cleared space, you feel lightness, but you also feel presence, a presence unlike anything you've ever experienced. It's as if, by releasing the pain, you've reconnected with a part of yourself that had been missing. As if your voice not only dissolved the wound, but also recovered a forgotten piece of your essence. And maybe, in the middle of it all, you find yourself in silence. A good silence, not empty. A silence where there's no more fight. Because in that instant, you feel that something really left, and something real came back home. And when that forgotten part of you comes back into place, something strange, and at the same time familiar, starts to happen. It's not an emotion, not exactly a thought. It's like, in some quiet corner of your awareness, an ancient memory is trying to surface. A memory with no face, no date, but with absolute certainty. You've felt this before. That feeling isn't an illusion, it's a key. Thoth used to say, what we now call intuition is really just the surface of something much deeper, spiritual memory trying to wake up. A kind of invisible database, filled with experiences, wisdom, and codes that have been stored in hidden layers of the soul. Not just memories from this life, but from all the existences your consciousness has moved through. And these records don't open with logic. They're not accessed by intellectual effort. They are sealed by vibration. And only the right vibration, sustained with purity and intention, can open those doors. That's why when you sing with truth, not to please anyone, not from ego, but from real connection, that chant goes past the surface layers of the ego and touches those hidden files directly. You don't need to understand how this works, because it's not rational. You just notice. A sudden insight, a clarity that shows up out of nowhere, an image that appears in detail, a memory that doesn't seem to be from this life, but still carries such strong emotional charge that you don't even question it. Sometimes it comes as an unexplainable certainty. I already knew this. I've always known. That kind of recognition isn't a mind trick. It's a vibrational echo. It's the soul hearing something that activates a sleeping point inside. It's like your consciousness, vibrating at that specific tone, sends out a call. And that call is answered by parts of you that had been distant, forgotten fragments that, hearing the right frequency, come back as if to say, we're ready to return. These memories don't come back like a timeline. They're felt as a presence, a knowing that pulses, a wisdom that wasn't learned. It was reactivated. Thoth called them inner records, files stored in what he called the vibrational core of the soul, and only those who dive into their own sound can access them. That's why, in ancient traditions, singing was considered a form of spiritual instruction. People didn't sing just to express themselves. They sang to remember, to reclaim, to reconnect with what had been hidden for millennia beneath the veil of material density. And when that veil begins to thin, you realize that everything you were looking for on the outside was already written within. And then, between one sound and the next, between one silence and another, you start to recognize signs. Symbols that were always around you, but now they make sense. Words you've always heard, but now they hit differently. People who've always crossed your path, but now seem to carry hidden messages. It's not coincidence, it's alignment. When spiritual memory is activated, the outer world starts reflecting what has been remembered inside. That process can come with strong emotions, because remembering who you really are also means undoing the layers of who you thought you were. And that's not always comfortable, but it's freeing, and it happens because the sound you express with presence broke through the inner walls that protected those sleeping truths. And now, nothing can stop them from rising. And once that memory starts vibrating inside you, a new kind of commitment is born, not a commitment to a hollow ritual or mechanical effort, but to the very vibration now pulsing more strongly in your field. Because what you reactivated needs nourishment. It needs continuity to take root. It's not enough to just open the door. You have to walk through it, with presence, with consistency, with truth. Thoth taught that the key isn't in effort, but in conscious repetition. He said that sacred sound, when sung just once, is like a stone tossed in a lake. It creates ripples, yes, but if those ripples aren't sustained, they fade. That's why singing once with presence can open a portal. But singing regularly, in short and consistent cycles, transforms that portal into a path. And that path begins to reorganize everything around you. The frequency you activate with your voice isn't just a momentary experience. It can be stabilized. It can be sustained over time. And when that happens, it starts to build something new. At first, you might not even notice, but after 3 days, something shifts. A detail in your mood, a lightness in your body, a thought that doesn't come back, an automatic reaction that disappears. Because conscious repetition starts to shape your subtle field. That field, which used to be full of noise, tension, interference, and unconscious memories, now starts to vibrate with a different signature. You stop being an echo of external situations. You stop reacting to life based on old impulses. Because the sound you sustain every day for just 33 seconds starts clearing the filters of perception. And as those filters dissolve, you begin to see reality with more clarity, more presence, more coherence. This isn't theory. It's vibrational physics applied to the biological field. The voice, when used consciously, becomes a reprogramming agent. Every repetition strengthens the vibrational pattern you want to anchor. And since the universe responds to the dominant frequency, the more you vibrate with intention, the more reality starts to align with that vibration. You enter a new cycle. A cycle no longer based on chance, but on choice. And that choice shows up in the way you walk, the way you breathe, the way you speak, the way you feel. Because what was unstable becomes structure. What was a glimpse becomes foundation. What seemed unreachable starts happening naturally, not because the outside world changed, but because you started putting out a different vibration from within. And the world, sensitive as it is to your field, responds. And it's when that vibration stabilizes inside you, after moving through layers, dissolving blocks, aligning centers, and calming internal time, that something even deeper begins to happen. The sound that used to be a tool for personal healing becomes something bigger. It stops being just an intimate practice and becomes a field that radiates from you, even when you don't speak, even when you're silent, because now you have become vibration. Thoth used to say that when a human being heals themselves through sound, They become a source of conscious resonance, a presence that reorganizes the field around them effortlessly. No need to teach, convince, or interfere. Just being there is enough. Because when someone holds a coherent frequency, everything around starts to vibrate in response. It's the principle of resonance. The stronger tunes the weaker. The more stable affects the one still wavering. Light doesn't shout to be noticed. It just shines, and everything lights up. You might not notice it right away, but the environment you live in starts to shift. Small tensions fade. Relationships that were once heavy begin to soften. Harsh words lose their power in the presence of your vibration. It's as if your frequency is retraining the space, because the sound you chant for 33 seconds every day starts to leave marks. Subtle but powerful marks, like an energetic fragrance that lingers even after you've left the room. And this isn't limited to your body, not to your home. The vibration you hold spreads. It travels. It crosses fields, connects frequencies, activates memories. It's like, by healing yourself, you become a living transmitter, a broadcasting point where healing isn't explained, it's felt. A space where others, just by being near, start to access something they didn't even know was there. That's why Thoth called this practice real alchemy, because it doesn't turn lead into physical gold, but density into vibrational light. It turns pain into wisdom. It transmutes chaos into order, and all of it without forcing anything, without fighting anything, just chanting, just feeling. Just allowing your voice, aligned with your heart, to manifest the sacred word that restructures everything around you. If you made it this far, type in the comments, "My voice is my healing." That's your vibrational seal, your confirmation that you're ready to remember who you truly are. And if you want to help this channel grow and spread this knowledge to more people, there's a special link for you in the first pinned comment below, where you can contribute directly to the expansion of this mission. And before you go, pay attention. There's a special video waiting for you on the screen. It was carefully chosen to guide you even deeper on this journey. Click there so we can meet and keep awakening together.